Next, we have Mr. Christopher Po and Miss Nanette Po, also good friends of mine. Chris, well, let me tell you, I've been asked to shorten my introduction, so I will make it short, but I can't resist this chismis. The Po brothers are a brilliant bunch, having graduated as summa cum laude and magna cum laude in universities abroad. Chris is the third of four brothers. All are good looking. Sons of Taipan Ricardo Po Sr., who is among the top 50 richest in the Philippines according to Forbes magazine. The Po family owns Century Group, which is the largest canned tuna company in the Philippines and is in the food and beverage business. Chris is now executive chair and is focusing on expanding outside the canned business, but still on food. He is also the chairperson of Shakey's Pizza Ventures, Inc. He has an MBA from Harvard Business School and an undergraduate from Wharton School. Relevant to our topic this afternoon of synergizing profit and social good, let me say that Chris is a member of the Board of Trustees of the World Wildlife Fund Philippines. Incidentally, that's where we sit together as members of the Board of Advisors. He is chairperson of CF Foundation, which is a nonprofit that supports the educational needs of underprivileged youth in the Philippines, and he is also in the advisory board of Bantay Bata Children's Village, a shelter for abused children. He is married to another good friend, Nanette. Nanette Po. Not really, right? Is an award-winning film actress, TV host, model, philanthropist, and business person. She is the founder of Generation Hope Inc. and Friends of Hope Inc., which produces both company-branded and co-branded consumer goods. Profits from the Hope line of products are devoted to improving the public school education system, as well as smallholder farmer productivity through its agricultural interventions. Nanette is also the founder of HopeX, which is a nonprofit entity that offers business and consumers an easy and responsible way to be accountable for plastic. Hashtag no to plastic is her mantra. Born on January 21, 1971 in Honolulu, Hawaii, an alma mater of Babson College, where she graduated summa cum laude in finance and entrepreneurship. A bit of chismis, we all know her for being Darna, the original Darna. 25 films later, Nanette ended her film career where she co-starred with Fernando Po Jr. in the film Ang Dalubhasan in 2000. She has two sons with Chris, correct? One is 15 and one is 11. And in 2002, she announced that she's quitting showbiz to help in the various advocacies of her family. First to speak is Chris or Nanette? Is Chris. Ladies and gentlemen, another power couple, Chris and Nanette Po.
Good afternoon. So someone asked me earlier who's going to speak first. I said me because I'll be the appetizer and my wife will be the main course. Anyway, she's easier on the eyes and a much better public speaker than me, I assure you. So members of the Board of Trustees, nice to see some familiar faces. Investors and guests, thank you for having us. So I usually don't accept these public speaking invitations, no, Karen knows that. But see, Ed Francisco was the one who asked me, no? And since we always go to him if we need to raise money and borrow money, obviously I had to accept, no? So Ed, boss. Anyway, so what we'll do with the minutes that were given to us, I thought we'd just talk about our day jobs and a little bit about our family, and then we'll leave the rest of the more fun stuff to Karen So Karen, you're known for your incisive and probing questions. Please be kind. Anyway, so yeah, just a little bit of introduction. I said I would talk about my day job, no? So I do chair Century Pacific Food Inc., a publicly listed company. Also chair of Shakey's, where we have the rights to the Philippine territory as well as most of Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and the Middle East. Century Pacific Group is the family holding company, and Arthaland is our investment in real estate, also a public listed company. I also listed my advocacies. I do consider this to be part of my day job. I am the president of my father's foundation. The main advocacy is hunger alleviation and nutrition. As Lorna said, that's where we met Lorna. I'm current member, board of trustee of WWF Philippines. Recently joined the board of Asia Society, and I'm a board member of my wife's company, Friends of Hope. Many people mistake Friends of Hope to be the CSR arm of Century. That is furthest from the truth. Friends of Hope, which my wife will be talking about later, the vision is all my wife, and I'm just a cheerleader and supporting cast, no? That's it. Okay, yeah, so Century Pacific Food Inc., most people know us as a tuna company. I'd like to think of us as a branded food company. More than a quarter of our business is actually also meat. We are also a leading OEM manufacturer for tuna and coconut products. And we are also fast becoming a dairy company. No? So market leader in a few categories in canned tuna, in canned meats. We have a fast growing milk business, and I already spoke about our OEM businesses. Shakey's on the other hand, so we are not a QSR company, so I hope most of you know Shakey's. You go there, you sit down, you're served. So we're called a full-service restaurant. So Shakey's is the #1 full-service restaurant chain in the Philippines. And as a restaurant brand overall, including the QSRs, we are the third largest restaurant brand in the Philippines. By the end of the year, we would have about 250 stores. As I mentioned, we also have Shakey's in other parts of the world, currently in the Middle East, soon in the rest of Southeast Asia. As for Arthaland, Arthaland just had its beginnings about 10 years ago, so it's fast becoming known as a quality boutique developer. All of our projects are sustainable and green projects. So we have a couple of projects in BGC, we have an ongoing one in Cebu, and a few others. Savia is it's our project in the new Arca South, which is the old FTI, and a few others in the pipeline. So as previously mentioned, I am just the appetizer, so I now give you the main course, my wife Nanette.
Okay, thank you. So I'm not going to go over the talking points on my CV anymore. I think Lorna did a very good job of that earlier and gave a little bit more. Thank you. Thank you again to all of our friends here at Sharefield for having us. I'm going to present a very simple deck about hope because unlike my husband's company, which I'm sure you guys know a lot about, there are many of you here who may not know about hope. And to my husband's point, we are not the CSR of Century. We're a separate company altogether. In fact, we're a separate group of companies. And so I'm going to walk you through a very simple, hopefully, explanation of what hope does. So Hope Business for Good is the first Philippine company to donate 100% of its profits. In our case, at Hope, we donate 100% to the building of public school classrooms in a partnership with the Department of Education. We're also the first company in the Philippines to be a B Corp, Our hope is that at some point there will be more B Corps in the Philippines, but at the moment we're the only B Corp. B Corps that you may know about are companies like Ben & Jerry's, Clean Canteen, Patagonia, and basically these are companies who meet the highest standards of environmental, social, transparency, accountability, and performance standards. So Hope is the first to do that. We're also the first company to water. So for those of you who don't like plastic, there's a boxed version. And we're also the first company in the Philippines and potentially beyond to be plastic neutral. We've been plastic neutral since January of 2018. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that later, since many of you may not understand what that term means. So Hope, very simply, as a brand, has 2 companies and just recently 3 companies under it. The first one is our for-profit, which is Generation Hope, which basically engages in all of our commercial activities, right? So the water that you see is sold by that company, as well as any other products that you see that are Hope branded. And we then donate 100% of that profit into the non-profit entity, which is Friends of Hope, which spends the money. So it spends the money to build classrooms or do our agriculture venture or whatever else it is that we're doing at Hope. So that's how it is structured. Sorry. How Hope works. So a lot of people wonder how Hope works. This is kind of our virtuous circle, we'd like to think. We basically sell our products to retail partners, whether it's Starbucks or 7-Eleven or Shangri-La or whatever, or Dusit. And our customers support nation building through buying our products. We then use the profits to build public school classrooms. And then through a partnership with the Department of Education, we give a tax credit to our retail partners. So that's kind of the virtuous circle of Hope in our operations. To date, our education impact has been that we have impacted about almost 17,000 students, and we have 91 classroom builds around the country. These are the locations that we build. You'll notice that a lot of our builds are in Mindanao, and that's purely because DepEd has the greatest need there, and so we try to situate ourselves there. Our education initiative at Hope, I always like to say, because people, when we go to places like that, that was one of our last turnovers, people always say, oh, thank you so much for giving us classrooms. But the truth is I don't give these people classrooms. The people that give the classrooms are people like you. When you buy a bottle of Hope, or even here at Dusit, who's a customer, when you buy a bottle of Hope through Dusit, it's you guys that give the classroom to these people. I'm simply the person who makes sure that all that money gets funneled properly. So that's the whole idea of Hope. On the Hope neutral, on the plastic neutral side, I'll explain first our footprint. So our footprint is, actually I'll start with what plastic neutral is. Plastic neutral is basically, because when we started Hope in 2012, the issue of plastic packaging or single-use packaging was not such a big issue. And when we realized that it was, the last thing we wanted to do was solve one problem in education by creating another with the environment. And so we made it our company mission to find a way to offset our footprint. If we were going to sell water in plastic, we needed to be responsible for that. And so what we wound up doing was coming up with several partnerships that allowed us to offset the footprint. And the way we do it, and I'm going to take you through 4 processes, is first, whenever Hope sells a bottle of water, we charge ourselves an internal plastic tax. And so just like in your companies, you would have VAT, which is automatically added to your invoice. In our case, we have an education tax and a plastic tax, which is charged to me internally. It gets accrued into a fund. And at the end of each month, we take that fund to recover, in this case, post-consumer plastic. So let's say, for example, each bottle is 10 grams of plastic, and there is a certain value associated with recovering 1 gram of plastic. If I sell 1 ton in 1 month of plastic, I then have that amount of money to recover it. So let's just say it's 5,000 pesos per ton. I then have to go out into the marketplace and recover 1 ton of plastic. And what we do in our specific case now, bring it to co-processors like Holcim or like Aboitiz's Republic Cement, and they use it to replace coal in the production of cement. No? So what happens is they take our plastic and they recover the fuel in it, right? Because plastic is basically petroleum. So we get rid of our plastic footprint that way. So we don't recycle it, we don't upcycle it, we don't turn it into benches. We literally allow co-processors to recover the fuel properties of the plastic, and then it's gone. So this is how we as a company have chosen to offset our plastic. We are not saying this is the absolute best way to do it in the world, but it's currently the best way we have found in the Philippines, given the lack of ways to get rid of plastic or recycle plastic. We figure rather than do nothing, we'd rather do something, no? Until we find better solutions. Now, when we did this and announced it on Karen's show, we got so much feedback about companies who would like to do the same. There are manufacturers who don't want to actually be part of the problem. So they reached out to us and said, wow, can you help us come up with our own path to plastic neutral? And as a result, we came up with what is potentially the first plastic credit exchange in the world. In fact, it's supposed to be launched at the end of the year, but we already started operations. And this works very similar to a carbon credit exchange, but it's a plastic credit exchange. And so what we have done is we have slowly started to add capacity of processors who pass the environmental emission standards. I mean, both Chris and I serve on WWF, so we have a sensitivity for this, no? So we are very careful about the capacity that we add to the exchange. And we also have buyers who want to offset their plastic credit. So let's just see, for example, I'll use Hope so that I don't have to get anybody in trouble. So in the case of Hope, when I say I'm going to get rid of 1 ton of plastic post-consumer because that's what I sold into the marketplace, that doesn't mean I'm going to go out and recover 1 ton of Hope plastic bottles because logistically that would be too expensive, diba? But what I will guarantee is I'll say, okay, that 1 ton might constitute Coke bottles or Palmolive sachets or cooking oil bottles or anything for as long as it's equivalent tonnage, weight in plastic, I'm getting rid as much as I'm putting in, no? So that is where our neutrality comes from. So hopefully you'll hear more about this towards the end of the year when we do a formal launch, but this is already operating and we have people who have come on board and are very eager to take that capacity. Actually, our bottleneck now is being able to get the plastic post-consumer, right? Because that's where the challenge is in the collection of plastic. Okay, so that's the exchange. And then the last part of Hope, which people don't really know about because it's not forward-facing, is that we actually have an agriculture intervention business in Mindanao. The reason why this isn't heard about a lot in Hope is because this is fully funded by US companies like Costco and Vita Coco. So they have funded these interventions that allow us to help smallholder farmers in Mindanao increase their capacity. So I won't bore you so much with this, but this is something we are also, is very close to our hearts, no? Our interventions are replanting, intercropping, farmer training, and of course, increasing market access. And these are the locations in Mindanao that we operate. And Chris will talk you through the family stuff.
Okay, so we'll both talk through this. So that was her day job, and I spoke about my day job. But actually, we operate in a larger context, no, which is our business family, the Po family. And actually, my wife, Nanette, was chosen as the chairperson of the Po Family Council, right? So what is the Po Family Council? The Po Family Council is a group of people composed of myself and my siblings, our spouses, and all the next generation Po family members who are of age. No? And so for me, it's a big deal that number one, it's an in-law, right, who is the head of a family of the family council of a Chinese family. Number two, it's a woman. Number three is my wife. But what is the family council supposed to do, right? So the main thing is, according to research, only 3% of family businesses make it past the third generation, right? So 3%. Out of 100 companies, 97 will fail and not make it beyond the third generation. So that is something we are preparing for, and that's why we formalized this governance structure. And what is the charter of a family council? Number one, the main reason for failure is there is no open communication, and families are very poor at communicating with each other. Yeah, you might go on trips together, but you never really talk about real issues. No? So that is the number one mission of the family council, which is to foster open communications. We do have a family constitution, so it is the family council's responsibility to make sure that there's buy-in among the group. A big part also of what the family council does is to make sure that family members are united about the purpose of what the family business is supposed to do. Business updates, and then we have different subcommittees. No, so we're running it like we're running the family like an actual business organization. No? So we do have subcommittees. There's the Education and Development Committee, which the main charter of that is to make sure that we are training the future leaders of family members. No? Of course, there's the Social Committee to make sure that there's good communication and bonding. And then there's 1G is basically my parents. No? So the family council comes together to make sure that 1G, Mr. and Mrs. Ricardo Po Sr., all their needs, medical, home needs, etc., are taken care of. No? The family council is also very active in deciding what the philanthropy outreach and activities are. We had an episode earlier over the summer about members of the family not agreeing, and it's the charter of the family council to make sure that conflicts are mediated. You know? Already talked about taking care of 1G. So just a little bit about the development committee. So what we do is, I am actually the chair of this committee. My wife serves as one of the leaders. That means I do a lot of the talking and utos, and she does most of the work. And that's not a joke, it's real. So what is the development committee supposed to do? As I mentioned, it's meant to develop the future leaders in the family. We have 4 tracks of members of the third generation, pre-teen. No? So generally what happens is they're exposed to the family history. We talk about values, what the founders had to go through to give them what they need, what they have today. Educational, these would be like high school and teen type family members. So we make sure they understand and start getting to understand what's going on in the business, and get them through internships during the summer, and try to understand what their passions are, and hopefully marry that with our family's different business activities. Then there are the young professionals who are post-university, post-college, so we help them with their careers. We actually have a HR manager on staff as part of the development committee, just taking care of the next generation. No? And then finally, the 4th track is to make sure that if family members want to be involved in management, that they have the right training, the right qualifications. Not all family members need to be managers. Most of them will end up being owners, but the ones who choose not to be a manager can be an owner, but then the ones who want to be very involved in the business, running day to day, the qualifications are also different. So that's where Nanette and I actually really do a lot of work together. And then finally, with all of these different activities, this is our most important venture. This is the Chris and Nanette Po nuclear family. So those are our kids, Gandon, who's 15, and Joss, 11. Thank you very much.